Blowback was a term the CIA invented in a term of jargon with a lot of other CIA jargon. It was in the original report on the overthrow of the Prime Minister of Iran, Mossadegh, in 1953 for the sake of the British Petroleum Company. We claimed that he was a communist. He wasn't a communist, and it's absurd that he was a communist, but it was really for the sake of British Petroleum, in which the CIA said, there's a good chance we're going to have some blowback from this operation. Blowback does not mean just unintended consequences. It means unforeseen consequences of actions that were kept secret from the American public. Therefore, when the retaliation, which is really all the word means, retaliation, when the retaliation comes, the average citizen has no way to put it in context, to understand what's happening. Hence, you get sort of absurd remarks like our presidents after 9/11, why did they hate us? You wanted to say, you have standing around you people who were responsible for the Afghan operation in the 1980s, the largest clandestine operation we ever carried out, who could easily explain to you why they hate us. I mean, that is Dick Cheney, Colin Powell, Donald Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice, all of them know with precision why they hate us. But that's what blowback means. It's now entered the language as a term referring to the unintended consequences of our foreign policy, and particularly the kinds of clandestine operations we've carried out now since 1953 to overthrow other people's governments, to have friendly police forces execute people we want eliminated, to carry on campaigns of state terrorism against populations we dislike, as in, for example, Central America in the 1980s. They go on. I mean, that is most recently, last year, April 2002, in Venezuela against Hugo Chavez. In October of this year, October 2003, in trying to prop up a pro-American government in Bolivia that served American financial interests. It's something we need to learn to live with. It also, in some ways, blowback, I think, has become of interest to Americans because we are, as a country or as a culture, so remarkably insensitive to history, so uninterested in history. The thing that always struck me about 9/11 is that we didn't ask the most obvious of all forensic questions: what were the motives of the suicidal attackers of 9/11? If you'd started to ask what were their motives, you'd instantaneously gotten yourself back into the clandestine operations against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan in the 1980s. You discovered that Osama bin Laden comes from an extremely wealthy Saudi family whom you normally encounter on the ski slopes of Gstaad with a blonde-haired girl, or as a house guest of George Bush at Kennebunkport, as George Bush 41, the first one, but that he had good reason to get extremely irritated with us. But we not only often don't know much history, and our news media serve us extremely poorly in that area, but that our government also has a vested interest in ensuring that you don't read that history, because it would bring home the fact that some very high-ranking officials of our government are at least partially responsible for the deaths of 3,000 of their fellow citizens on 9/11/2001 in New York and Washington.